And you can hear me all right? Very good. Perfect. Yes, and I will show you on stream who's in the room. You can say hi. Very good. Okay. So just see to it that you're comfortable. You can close your eyes. Recognize what is here in this moment. Just see what is here. You can just recognize the experience, thoughts, feelings, input through the senses. Just notice that you can be aware of all of it. There's nothing wrong with your emotional state or thoughts coming. You just look at them. Just see them for what they are. Invite them into this moment. Instead of trying to make the mind quiet, you just invite all the thoughts. Allow them to come. But at the same time, you're alert. You notice. You recognize. The mind might come up with ideas of control, instructions. But you just recognize the thoughts are coming. You don't have to buy into anything. You can just stay as you are. Recognizing the transient nature of everything. Our thoughts, feelings, and everything else in this experience moves about. changes. Whatever your thoughts on meditation is, it's not that. Meditation is on an experiential level only. This kind of meditation you cannot hold as an experience. When you first encounter this spacious meditation, you might say, I feel so relaxed. But the more you stay with this spaciousness, you see how tension moves and releases. And how subtle tension can be. The tension can be looking for an experience, wanting something to happen. Try to uphold the person is the biggest one. The whole egoic construct that is in fact not real, that are just thoughts coming and going. Believed in, it creates a lot of tension. It gives the apparent illusion that you uphold your life. But as you look, you notice that your life is happening. The identified mind likes to take credit. It says, I did this, I did that. And it's easy to fall into because almost everyone does it. Believes in this identified mind. But to say that you are just the identified mind is to reduce yourself significantly. You are a spacious being. You are the present moment. See what happens if you stay as you are. See what happens if you don't touch thought. The experience continues, but the outlook changes. You can open your eyes slowly, in your own pace. Move your body if you need to. Stretch out your legs. What makes us happy? Where does happiness come from? Is it when everything is aligned perfectly in the external? Is it when everyone behaves at their best? When people are not fighting? When children are happy? Where does it come from? Does it come from you getting the right things? The things that you sense that you lack? Someone comes and says, "Here you are." Is that happiness? What happens if all your wishes were granted? Everything that you wanted out of life, you were given. And if you had all that, and you still didn't feel satisfied, where is it? If you think it's in stuff, maybe you met people who has a lot of stuff. And maybe you realize they don't seem content. They don't seem peaceful. Even people who have really good relationships, and many of them, many friends, really good a partner, all that. Still not satisfied. Still lacking. Why? And I know that many people want to give the impression that they have everything and that they feel really happy. But if you talk to them a little bit more, get to know them, you notice that they always want something more. They're not content with what is. And I really think that this is a good thing to contemplate on. And also just watch people around you. Especially if you look up to someone who has achieved much, has a great talent, and look at their behavior, see if they're truly happy. Because often we have an idea, even though you might say, I'm interested in spirituality and I understand that happiness is in beingness itself, and you can quote Ramana Maharshi or whatever you like. But it's so easy that ideas linger. That all these prominent ideas of freedom feels more like a philosophical exercise. And the things that you're longing for, you might neglect them because of they don't align with your spiritual path. So I'm asking you to look at them instead. Because they are the key in this. If we're not honest with what we're longing for, how can we understand ourselves? How can we understand what is? And you can look at the things that you're longing for, and also look at people who have achieved what you're longing for. All this is very good. And I know that these kind of exercises are a bit scary, because many people don't really want what they're longing for, because they just want to feel the hope of it. Do you understand? It feels nice when it's a distant dream, but if you would have the reality of it, you wouldn't really be able to absorb it, because then it's gone. And the ego likes this. It likes the idea of time. It likes the idea of things, and sometimes unreachable things in the future. It gives the ego a sense of purpose and a sense of hope. So it probably won't really like what I'm proposing. It won't like to really look. Because it fears hopelessness. It fears the sense of no future. That's why the ego resists beingness. It resists just being. Even when you're comfortable, if you're comfortable for a moment in just being, the mind goes really quiet. Perhaps you sit in your meditation. It's just very, very peaceful. At some point, the mind will come and say, okay, enough of that. Because it doesn't want this space. However glorious you might feel or blissful in that moment of meditation, it will still prod. It will say, we've been sitting long enough. Now it's time to do something. But I want to also tell you that the mind, the egoic mind, the ego, is not an enemy, because it is just a cluster of thoughts repeating. It needs to be upheld. When we pose the question about the ego, if it is real, the way to look at that is to look if it stays in this moment, if you don't react to it. You can check if it is original to you. Can it go? And if so, how can you be it? Every phenomena that comes and goes, it has that transient nature that shows that it's not real. It's just that we are so used to the idea of I, the idea of the person, that we come back to it again and again, and through that it's upheld. If you're aware of your mind, you start to notice that the mind says, this is happening to me, now this situation is here, now this problem is here, whatever it is. It tries something to hook you. And especially if you are aware of it and you start to be spacious, and with that I mean that you can observe it, that there is a distance between you and thinking. This weakens the ego significantly. And even worse for the ego is if you go and ask, when the thought of I comes, to whom does this belong to? And you look for the source. Because the ego is hollow. It does not have a source. It always feeds on your belief that it is real. So you have to mirror your energy into it every time for it to stay relevant. Otherwise, it's just another insignificant thought. We have reversed the roles. Most of us have placed ego, the inner voice, the identified self, as number one. Whatever it says goes. If it says bad day, it is a bad day. If it says good day, it is a good day. It just dictates everything that is happening. And if you go with that too long, and you have some awareness of it, you end up here, on this satsang. Because you start to see through it. You start to see that it takes, it creates so much conflict in you. It creates all this sense of lack. Maybe you don't see that at first. You just feel like I'm overwhelmed by thought. It's too stressful. The inner world is too stressful. And this crisis is a beautiful crisis. To get really tired of the mind. And if you're sensitive, and your feelings are not too buried, they're kind of close, those people seem to be drawn more towards this kind of introspection. Because they will just suffer their life a little bit more, to be honest. And you can feel that your life sometimes, when it's emotionally overwhelming and you feel stressed, that it is kind of a curse. But there is a beauty in this, that you cannot avoid it, that you cannot bury it, that you have to face it head on. And you have to go somewhere else than just escaping it. And you should be happy that you're not just buying into the things that the mind says, everything is fine. It's a right like this. I can survive. All this level that the ego lives on. Always dissatisfied, but also always fine. There is so much quality to be present in life. To be present even with the things that are terrible, that are emotionally upsetting, loss, grief, anger, all of it. But if you're with it, if you truly stay with it, it can be expressed more naturally, and in a strange way you might even enjoy it. Behind this experience, most people call their everyday experience, with the idea of the person and the situation of your life, your problems, all that, is a deep, deep stillness that does not change. An awareness that's behind everything. Everything comes from that. Everything goes back into that. But most of us are completely invested in the experience and in the mind. We're so addicted to the mind. We're addicted to the idea of the person and all the seeming comforts that come with that. Because in that you can just You can have the feeling of you're doing things in the world and you get appreciation for your doing. And you play this game. You invest to be loved. Put all your time and energy to be worthy to be loved. But that is not freedom. That is just going along with the mind. And the more you look, the more you start to notice that it is all this surface is just like waves on the ocean. It looks like a lot is happening, but they're just part of something much, much bigger. And that the sea itself, beingness itself, is what holds everything. And in that is deep relaxation. Because there's so much tension in the idea that you are upholding this life. But life is just happening through you. And if you identify as the ego, the life is still just happening, but it feels like you are the doer of everything. You are responsible for everything. You're even responsible for all the expressions of the world. And the depth that this game can play on your mind, it is a good thing to look at it really, because most people their mind is just completely filled to the brim with thoughts about how am I going to relate to the world. That's almost all people's thoughts all the time. They cannot be present because of this. There is so much spaciousness in giving up the idea of the person moving through the world and the allowance of the world happening. It does not mean that you are passive in the world, that you somehow take a back seat, because it is just that you're with things as they are. Meditation is not an invention. It's just a discovery of what is. It's not a thing, really. There is no avoiding beingness. It's not a philosophical concept that we're talking about here. Sometimes people tell me, yes, but I listened a little bit to you, but I need more practical meditation. And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't talk about anything that's not practical. It's not a philosophical exercise. It's not a moral exercise. I don't ask you to do mental acrobatics with moral problems or philosophical conundrums. I don't do any of that. I'm just pointing to what is. I cannot see how to be more practical than that. I cannot see the theory in that. I understand that there's a level of intellectual understanding if you haven't heard these things before. But everything here is practical. And I want you to test me. See if it works. See if what I say is bullshit or if it works. Check. What happens when I stay as awareness, when I stay as beingness itself, when I don't buy into thoughts? What happens to the mind? How is the spacious mind experienced? What comes in this experience then, when you don't identify? What is that space? You can think about it all you like. It won't help you until you look. We talk about this on an experiential level, not in belief, not in philosophy, none of that. So it's all practical. And I also understand that it takes a while to get used to something if it's new. Most of what we hear in society is not like this. People don't talk like I talk. We don't talk about what beingness is, what the present is, what happiness really is. Most of our ideas is that we assume. We have things with us. We have seen our parents happy in moments when they're excited about things. So we assume, oh, I think happiness is excitement. And when you look at it, you notice that excitement is always bound to the future. It's always bound in time. So that's not really contentment. That's just another idea that you're hopeful about the future. And when you get the wind of these things, you start to notice, but what makes me be able to accept the present moment? What do I need for that? How do I stay with what is? Because I also seen a happiness. Most people have this feeling that they've seen a happiness when they enjoyed a situation very, very much. They enjoyed someone's company. They enjoyed just being in that moment. What are the qualities that made you so present in that moment? The qualities are simple because they're not external. They're just that you didn't want anything to change. You enjoyed that moment and you thought, this moment is perfect. So, for a moment, you left the future and the past and you just enjoyed. And the beauty of the discoveries in meditation is that you notice that there is no future. That is just an idea happening in the present moment. There is also no past. That's also just an idea happening in the present. Everything that you experience is now. Everything else is just an idea of the world. So what if, instead of the thoughts and the whole idea of your world being so pronounced, you would put your emphasis on the present moment? That would be your focus instead of all this in the mind. What does that do? How would you live your life from that? What happens with that? How does it change your outlook? Please check me. You have to trust me enough to try it. But otherwise you can be as skeptical as you like. You're so welcome. Just try it. You're at work, recognizing, there's thinking, there's emotional content. Oh, I think I'm a bit worked up today. Whatever it might be that you recognize, you just recognize the moment as it is. Come back to it. Notice that there is thinking. And sometimes the mind has completely taken you on a ride. You have identified with a thought that feels overwhelming, and you just recognize that. You don't have to fix it. Usually, when you bought the ticket, you have to go for the ride for a while. But you just notice, okay, I've been taken by the mind, and now I go on this ride for 2 days worrying about this meeting or this person or whatever it is. And you come back to just noticing. And from the ego's perspective, it seems like such a trivial thing. What is noticing things going to do? What is this awareness going to do? Such a insignificant thing in the scope of this magnificent world. This awareness seems very, very small and very like a small thing. But the more you look into it, you notice that it's not a thing. That it holds everything. And that you are not in actuality a you. You are also that. These words coming from this mouth, these movements of my arms, it all comes from that. And instead of the idea of the doer in every action, you just see the unfolding happening. It does not mean that you don't plan your life or hold up the things that needs to be done. It just means that you can allow life to be. But most of us are addicted so much to the idea of control, to the idea of funneling life in a very specific manner to get the outcomes that we think that we want. And since those things are not in alignment with what is, that is super frustrating. And you will feel small, you will feel out of control, you feel insane sometimes. All these feelings comes with it. Because it doesn't have the qualities of contentment in them, of feeling whole. The only thing that has that is awareness. I tried so many meditation techniques and different yoga techniques to still my mind, to still the restless body. But the only thing that cut to the core of it was to question the I. Because otherwise, you can come to a point where you fix all things and you're very strategic about your life and you're very polished, you eat perfectly and you meditate perfectly and you do all these exercises, you take care of everything perfectly, but the mind still lacks. It's still restless. It won't feel, even though you can project a sense that your life is perfect, inside you won't feel contentment. The only thing that brings that about and it gives any permanence to this experience is awareness itself. And at first you don't understand what it is. You can understand that, okay, if I'm attentive, there is some kind of awareness of this moment that is there. In meditation, when I say be aware of this moment, be aware of your body, you can understand my instructions with that. But everything that has to do with that intention is the looking at the phenomena that you are attentive with, the things that you see. So when you see an outcome in that, when you meditate, you assume that it has to do with a phenomena. And you associate the situation, perhaps you're with me or you're by yourself in meditation, and suddenly the mind feels very spacious, and then you say, it's these circumstances. When I sit in silent meditation, when I do this or that, when I listen to Markus Atmananda, whatever it is, then I feel it. But that awareness comes from you. It is not a phenomena that comes to you sometimes in meditation as you will at first perceive it. It is your nature. And at some point you will see that it is not coming from the outside, it is not because of the practice, it is because of beingness itself. And when I'm not standing in my own way, when I don't identify with every thought, when I don't try all the time to hold everything together, it can just come spontaneously. Our happiness is not dependent on circumstances. It's just dependent on that spaciousness. It is like the sun and the clouds. You look at the clouded sky and you say, there is no sun today. That's how we talk, right? We say that there is no sun, but there is always sun. It's just covered by clouds. And it is the same with this awareness. It is just as the sun. But the identified thought makes it feel like there is a veil obscuring everything. Happiness is natural. It's also an idea that many people have, that happiness are dependent on circumstance. But happiness is dependent on, it just comes with being. And this is one of the difficulties with the acceptance of that. Because when you start to discover that, when you just sit and you just come back to this beingness, and this blissful expression comes from that, this deep contentment comes, are you worthy of it? Can you accept that it is coming? That is one of the most challenging things for most meditators, is that. Because you don't have to do anything for it. You will just be given naturally. And I see that most people, if I walk down the streets, they're completely taken by their mind. They're completely in their own world. They're taken by these identified thoughts. There are so few that really can see you. And even if they see you, they have an identified idea of how they should present themselves. That is another layer. So they have like a professional surface. I call it the adult thoughts. It's just a layer of how I present myself in the world. And on rare occasions, you meet someone who don't care about that, who just see you and who just allows the interaction with you to be what it is. This is a natural thing in us. And when we have these encounters, we say, this is my best friend, or I love this family member, or whatever it is, who brings that about in you, where you feel that you can be yourself and relax. And this is the same in the internal as the external. So in a sense, this relaxation of just being and this inner acceptance of this is you being your own best friend. The one that truly accepts you as you are. And that can become your inner climate, your inner world. And you will say that the world seems friendlier now. Because that is what happens through that lens. Nothing has changed. No one needs to change. You just accept what is here. And in that acceptance, you will mirror that acceptance in others. When they meet you, they feel seen, they feel accepted. So even the people who used to be quite terrible, they can show their absolute best side to you because they just feel seen. We're home blind. We're blinded by our own fears, by our own ideas. So when we look at the world, we always see the world through that lens. That is like a veil covering everything. And the expectations of others, the ideas of others, our judgment of others, all these things that comes with that fear, they get projected. And we say, this person is always like this or that, or they always do this or that. But if the inside change, everything changes. That doesn't mean that people they can still act terribly and all this, but it's just that personal bias is completely different. And you can make simple, you can just try to listen to a friend or someone close to you without thinking all the time holding a response. Just listen to them, really. See what's there. And they might just say things that they never said before. Because people, we pick up on all these subtle cues. You see that someone wants to talk. You see that they're not really listening. So you don't want to tire them. You don't want to say too much. All this, we have so many things. Very good. Any questions today? Oh. Yes. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, what life presents and what opportunities that comes. Like, how do I know? How do I know what to do? I mean, I don't know how to formulate the question, but it's
Yes.
kind of like, I don't know how to say it, but maybe you pick up on.
Yes. I know enough about your story to understand your question. How to choose in life? How do you sort the good things from the bad? If the mind is cluttered, if it's full of things and full of identified thoughts, it's going to be very difficult. And if the only reliance in that is thinking, then it's going to be jumpy, it's going to be this thing or that thing. But if there is some spaciousness, if there is some space between the thoughts, if you can rest in that, it also have a more of a wordless story. A natural rhythm that is just happening. It's a longing that sometimes can seem, to the mind it seems unrealistic. To the mind it can seem not grounded enough, not okay, there is this longing, but what the mind says, but what are the steps to get there? But even if the mind tries to have expectations of all that and plan all that, it will never happen as the mind wants it to, because life will happen as it happens. And sometimes you can recognize that your intention and your thoughts can be in full alignment with what is happening. And that is usually quite obvious then. I'm quite sure that many of you have had this feeling around something. That something was just very, very easy. It just, it fell into place, and this fell into place, and just felt like it was meant to happen. These movements, but you cannot predict them. The more you go with this deep, I call it the existential longing towards truth. It's like it's the part in us that just longs for freedom, knowing ourselves, what truth, whatever you want to call it, God. It just has an openness to it, and you can follow it. But the mind is tricky with that, because the mind says one day you should do this. When you do that and that doesn't work out, it says you shouldn't have done that. And it just goes like that. The mind, in that sense, is a terrible judge of it's a terrible compass in that sense. But the heart is much better to follow. But then you have to feel some connection to it. And you have to dare to be with it. When it says things like, I long for this, and it's just like, no, that's not possible, the mind says, or that kind of freedom is, you're not worthy of it, or whatever it is that you long for. And you can long for strange things sometimes, because it's also when there is something that has to be shown in that. You can sense, for example, that you're going into something that will be very destructive, but it's like a remnant of some fear that just has to be. And it's just quite short, and it's like a destructive relationship with someone or a destructive friendship, and you just have to meet that the one last time, and it just comes. And it can have this, it can still have what was imbibed with this sense of freedom in it, even though it just goes very quickly and is just expelled. That's just how vasanas, how these tendencies that come to the surface, how they can react to it. So it's not always rational from the mind's point of view. But when the freedom is there, and if you followed it a couple of times and you see the outcome of it, it would be very easy. It would be easier and easier. It still feels like there's no control in it, in the sense that the mind has. but it's just an openness. And if you time and time again just notice that when I trust this, it always shows me beautiful things or expansiveness. But
that's where
yes, tell me.
that's where I struggle a bit.
Yeah.
To trust because I think I will go crazy and I feel like, how could this work?
Yeah.
Kind of like I try to figure things out and then, oh my God, then yeah, that's not a beautiful story.
Yes. So, but that also opens the possibility to just trust that. But it's difficult when you have made many choices before and you feel like that doesn't make your life work in the way that you want to. Then it feels even more difficult to trust. It feels easier to ask someone else for their opinion. Because you say somehow that your compass is a bit screwed. It's not pointing north. But that is just an idea that you have.
And that one I have very strongly.
Yes.
Why do I? Yeah. So how do you kind of resolve that? By not trying to resolve it.
Yeah. You have to find that part of you. But I think that you know what it is. You say, maybe it's going to drive me crazy. You're scared of these things because that is usually what the quality of that sense has. This intuitive sense, that intuitive movement, and that it feels unrealistic also. That's why it's a good thing to ask yourself what you really want without any limitations. Do you understand? If you don't have the limitations of your current situation, whatever you like, what do you want? What is really there that you long for? And it can be, I long for a spiritual community, I long for just happiness and to feel free, I long for this or that, or I long for material things, or whatever it is.
And then if an opportunity comes up, I can really try my best to go in with it wholeheartedly and see how it is, right?
The problem is not that things are happening in your life and things are not working out, because that could just show you things. It just shows you what happens. The crazy thing is to go about in the same way every time with the same results. If it feels like your life is just repeating, then you have the same. You approach it in the same way. If you approach it strongly through the mind or just trying to follow others, then just maybe go inside and see what is here.
Yeah.
What do I really want? What do I long for? Even if it's trivial, allow yourself to just be okay with the longing for it. It can be very, very basic. I just want a home where I feel safe. Whatever it might be for you.
Actually, when that restless mind have come up lately, because it comes with kind of like attack you. Oh my God, I've been more okay with it.
Yes.
And for example, if a room looks very like there is a lot of stuff in it, and just like how disorganized I feel in my mind, if the environment looks like that, I actually been more okay with that, and just kind of relaxed into it, and it's not been so like compulsive to just get out of it.
Mm.
And yeah, that's a really big one. That's a
Yes.
big vasana for me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like giving birth to something like that comes out. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
But it is also that it's so easy to not understand what it is, what these simple things are. It takes a lot of honesty, because many people who are into meditation in some way, they want to feel advanced in it. They want to feel like they I've been doing this for a couple of years. Now so the really, really basic things, the things that you don't accept in your everyday life, or things that easily get you irritated, what they are can be such a great door to just into the understanding, that acceptance.
Yeah. I read something from Ananda Mayima that we should be like small children. and then we are invited home.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, not take those things so seriously.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? Yes.
So I know I've asked a version of this question before.
Let's go again.
Yeah. But it's related to arrogance. And it used to be arrogance for me in the form of knowing a lot. And now I notice that it's transformed into something else, mostly. So now it can be at work, for instance, being feeling that I have a calming effect on others, and being good at relationships and things like that, and sort of and I can see that there is a voice that wants to prop up my ego a lot, and say that I do this and they don't know how to, and all of that. And I find it very difficult because the suffering isn't so obvious.
No.
Since it's sort of in the short run, it's sort of a positive thing. But I can also see how toxic it is.
Yes.
But maybe not always in the moment. So just some advice on how to work with
to
arrogance.
Navigate that.
Yeah.
Yes, arrogance is a difficult one, because you usually feel very good in that. You feel superior. So, and if you look in society, people who have a lot of talent, charisma, something going for them, a lot of influence, and they have no self-awareness, they just go crazy with arrogance. It happens quickly, and it takes people, because the opposite of it is usually people come from low self-esteem or low self-worth, and suddenly they feel better and superior. But that game is always on that scale. It always places everyone on better and worse. Some people are up here, unreachable. Some people are lower. I don't really have to deal with them, or I pity them, or whatever it might be. But there is no scale. There is no one who is better. There is no one who is superior. Everything is just a reflection of that. And how to navigate it is what you're already doing now. You're exposing it. That is great. And then you can be honest with it. I see the arrogance. And you can observe it. You can observe it when you sit with it. And sometimes I jokingly say that one day you come to this group and you feel like, I'm the most advanced one here. and that is, I think that is also unavoidable in this. And as you mature spiritually, you will feel more mature than other people. And it's so easy for the ego to take hold of that and to say, I am wiser, I am better, I am this and that. What the acceptance of it, because it also brings about a tightness, and you probably notice also that you look at people and you judge their level of things, and it's all the time this game happening. So that is also very tiresome, and that is very fear-driven. And all these things, as much as you can expose them, the more you will see also the dark sides of arrogance. Because if you're not so used to it in your life, or perhaps you come from feeling inferior to people mainly, and suddenly you feel superior, it feels so positive that you get so high of it. And also, the more you're with that sense, you will see the fears that play in that, the comparison, all that comes with. And that it keeps you separate. It makes it more difficult to meet people. It makes it more difficult to really see them, because they're either good or on the bad. They're always on a scale. And also notice that it is also tendency that comes and goes. Even if you can notice that there is arrogance, there is moments where you just allow. That is a part of spaciousness. So you will also have the reference of that. That sometimes you don't play the game, you just allow. You don't care about it. And also when you just sense it, if it's strong, even if it feels positive, see if you can sense it and really allow yourself to be with it, and also the expression of it, because there can also be a sense of resisting it. You notice it and it's not good. That's not the good quality. Yes. So don't go into that trap, because then you just play with it further. You make it more pronounced. So instead, just invite it.
Thank you.
Thank you. let's sing something. Oh, you have a guitar. I did not know. Let's push Swami out of the way. No, that's fine. We can. Shankara Nataraja 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 Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Nataraja Nataraja Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja 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 Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Nataraja Nataraja Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja 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 Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Nataraja Nataraja Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja 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 Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Shiva Om Nataraja Nataraja Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja 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 Jai Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Nataraja, Nataraja. Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja. Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Nataraja, Nataraja. Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja. Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. May you find peace. May you recognize this moment as it is. Come back to it time and time again. This timeless quality in you, awareness itself. And as you recognize this, you'll allow the relaxation of everything. You see the natural pace of things. The mind is spacious and calm. Problems might still come, but they happen in the moment. find the peace of the present. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.